And hello, welcome back to the third episode of Flow Academy Talks with myself, David Ozzy Borge, and today we have an absolutely wonderful guest who's going to discuss an amazing topic with us. It is Dr. Deandra Cutajar, and we are talking business intelligence and data science. First of all, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you. Very, very good. I am so interested in this topic because, and I'll tell you why as we go along. But first of all, tell us a bit about yourself, what you've done so far, how you got here, why this subject.
Okay. So I'll start from the back. Why this subject, right? I always loved solving puzzles.
Okay.
I was always good in math. I pursued maths and physics for as long as I could at university level, and then I wanted to study space. I wanted to study astrophysics. So I pursued a doctorate in astrophysics where I started learning statistics, going in depth into statistics, those Bayesian analytics. And essentially, when I came to finish my doctorate, I landed my first role as a data science. I didn't know that all the skills I've learned throughout my academic career were preparing me for a career in data science. Today I'm a head of data science for an EdTech company that is international. I've built models across different industries, from gaming in Malta to demand forecasting, construction, marine insurance, and now in education.
Okay, very, very cool. And I'll tell you a bit about why I got interested in data science, and it's so typical man and guy. I like sports. I love sports. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard about the movie Moneyball. No, you haven't?
No.
A true scientist. No time for TV. Moneyball is a movie about the Boston Red Sox, who were commonly known as the first sports franchise to use data to make all their decisions. So I followed that movie, and then the Boston Red Sox owners bought my favorite club, Liverpool, and of course they incorporated the same approach. Whereas when they are looking at new players, when they are making important decisions, it's all based around data. So that's how I got really intrigued in it. And then of course, my recent years working in business, I've come to understand just how important looking at the data is. So it really is a topic that I'm interested in a lot. And I want everybody else to have the same opportunity to get interested like I am, because I understand exactly the importance of it in business today. So to start us off, how would you define business intelligence and data science? Layman's terms, please, Doctor.
Okay, so business intelligence, it's in the name. It's intelligence of the business. The way I like to describe it is using the data to take a picture of the business health today, at this moment, at this instance, like a pulse check. So you generate certain reports telling the business, this is where we are, these were the targets, and this is the gap. It's where we are today. Data science, and I have to say it's a very good question. It's
Look at the smile on your face right now. This is how much you love the topic. Look at that smile.
It's
I
true,
love it.
and the opportunity to discuss it. So the key word in data science is science. And when you look at the word science, different people will tell you different things. People associate science with chemistry, biology, physics, space. Data science is the science of data. So using different techniques, statistical, mathematics, different techniques to experiment on the data, those hypothetical scenarios that the business would like to forecast. So why is the business intelligence is the starting point? So data science need to depend on business intelligence. The data scientist then goes and says, okay, where is this data coming from? If I had something 6 months ago, a model, or let's say a model, could I have predicted what happened today? And those experimentation, which sometimes they lead to nowhere, it depends on the data and the quality of the data, but most of the time they lead to patterns. Patterns that then inform the business the why. We are here today because 6 months ago we've made this decision that influenced certain actions, certain triggers, and directed the business this or that way. But it's not, when you think of data science, it's confused with engineering, and it's confused with analysis.
Okay.
It is not, it is the experimentation, and it's largely dependent on the scientific method itself.
Okay, super interesting. Sounds a bit complicated.
It depends how you've interacted with science in the past.
Yeah.
Well, my whole life, physics, maths, all science. But I can understand that if someone just didn't, that could be a bit abstract.
So when you say the science of this, when you apply it to your role, for example, is it looking at varying amounts of data and then experimenting to try and find a formula that will lead you to making better decisions, right? I got it right?
And it needs to be repeatable. So applying the same formula at different time needs to be valid. So the formula needs to always be applicable for those observables, and it can change over time, but it shouldn't be highly volatile in a short period of time. It should be quite consistent for the data science model to be impactful.
I think that's quite common now across a lot of platforms. You cannot look at 1 month of data and say, this is going to be our strategy. You have to look at minimum a year.
Exactly.
And then see what happened in that year and then make certain decisions to apply for the next year's strategy.
Exactly.
Right? I'm actually, yay, okay. Tell me, why has business intelligence and data science become so central to business strategy in, well, I guess, say the last decade or so?
I think it has helped businesses support their strategy and goals. And it happens sometimes, you don't need data. Sometimes people with enough experience, they have what I call the gut feeling, but the gut feeling is supported by data because that's what experience is. And I think the very fact that we can now see factual correlations, not necessarily causation, but the link between an input and an output that then enables executives and the higher up leaders to say, well, action A led to result B. What if action A is now action A dash? Would it lead to result B dash? And then this strategy is more what is called data driven, which means you have that evidence to support your claim, those facts which are much stronger than I would love to try this. In large businesses, there might be a time and place for that research, and most businesses have a research division, but we're driven by targets, we're driven by results. We want results now, and that is why it has become powerful.
Okay, very, very, very interesting. I think a lot of companies, large and small, collect data these days, but I would say a large amount of them are probably not using it well. Would you say that's an a good statement? And can you give us an idea of the difference between a company who collects data, uses the science, and uses it properly, to someone who just collects data but is not really putting that much importance into it?
Okay, so I would say that is a fair statement, and I say fair and not good because one also has to compare it with the skills of the workforce of that company. So a company that collects data and uses it, you would see that the strategies are target aligned, those key results. You don't just have objectives or a nice vision, you have objectives and you have, these are the numbers that we're looking for. And this is exactly the milestone, so there's structure. companies where they collect data but not use it as effectively, you would see that not necessarily, because as I said, it could be driven by experience, which is also good. But then the guidance, the milestones, they're more qualitative rather than quantitative. So rather than an increase in revenue by X%, they would say, well, I would like more customers, but be a bit vague. And that could lead to uncertainty. What is enough? One customer, one new customer, 5 new customers?
Yeah.
Whereas with data-driven, what we see is more facts and metrics, which as a logic-oriented person, I am very comfortable when we talk about you need to do X% by this deadline. It's very organized for me.
Okay, I'm going to make a reference that you're not going to understand one bit, okay, but maybe some people watching this will. Sure. Data-driven, Liverpool, not data-driven, Manchester United. Okay? Great, okay, we got that sorted. Very, very good. I'd like to understand a bit, and I think it's important for small and mid-sized business owners and companies, because I think all the big ones are now doing it. I think that's again, probably a fair statement. Most of the big global companies are using data in the correct way. But for small and medium-sized business owners, can you give us an understanding of how potentially they could start to implement more using this data-driven approach, and how, of course, it would benefit them as a small, mid-sized company? Because I think it can be slightly different depending on the size of the company as well. But I think, personally, I may be wrong, you can correct me, that everyone should be using data.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think small to medium-sized companies have the advantage that they can explore the data better. One of the things I advocate is ethics and explainability. And you can't have that without having a good understanding of the data that you are collecting and therefore using. So small to mid companies, they have the opportunity to actually collect data, and we call it cataloging. So you define each data point that you collect and for what purpose, which, I mean, we have to because there are data laws nowadays, but it is also good practice. Once you start doing that, when you hire a data analyst or a data scientist, the data projects will come intuitively, because you would see how the data story, the story that it starts to tell, you would see table against table, and you would think, if these two were put together, what would happen? Yeah. Large companies, absolutely, they have more data and maybe a larger team, but large companies could also suffer from tech debt, where they would leave the cataloging as a low priority, which means that data is not really understood. We may say the same thing, referring to a different metric, or we can refer to the same metric in a different manner. So we're passing through each other. So both are fair, both are opportunities, and I think the most important thing is that if you have the data house in order, data science, AI, all opportunities come through.
Super. So can you share maybe a couple of practical examples of how BI and data science has directly influenced some strategic decision making in business?
Okay. I'll do what I can.
Yeah, okay. No miracles.
Yeah. So in the past, I've worked with data around weather. So with climate change, there are new paths around the world that are opening up, and combining weather conditions, wave conditions, plus insurance data, it enabled companies to understand what if a vessel goes a different route. And then obviously the experts would then determine the exact strategy for them. But the data enabled them to say, well, if they go this path, there are large waves. The weather is unstable. Now, of course, there are different vessels. You have large vessels, small vessels, those that can withstand that storm, those that cannot. But the data together enable that decision, that strategy for the business. Also, I've been working with construction data as well, how from an architectural design, we could predict whether that design would lead to issues, or not the design per se, but the material within it. So for example, if you have two elements, let's say a wall and a door of a particular material that in the past they caused issues, now you know that they cause issues, so moving forward you either avoid that or you strategize on how to counteract that. There's also a lot of marketing, so marketing and sales go hand in hand, right? You get a lead from a campaign, from an ad that hopefully turns into a sale, a conversion rate. When you understand what are the success rates from different campaigns and adverts, it could be color, it could be the tone of voice. It also could be that it's not the color or the tone of voice per se, but the customer segmentation. You have those important customers, let's call them important, those base customers, and those customers that have logged into your website just out of curiosity. Potentially, you don't want to put in the same effort to all those segments. So having that data, having the value of the customer has enabled the business to strategize and prioritize also customer queries, for example. So customers that are loyal, that are VIP, they are pushed through at the top of the queue if they have a query, whereas base customers, let's call them that, maybe they were allowed in the queue, which I see it indirectly implemented even here in Malta with certain services where obviously with private companies.
Yeah, of course. I was actually expecting you were going to divulge a lot of company secrets there, but
no, no, I'm very cautious.
Don't worry, we would never do that for sure. So, what would you say to senior leadership, okay, who are maybe thinking about BI and data science capabilities? Is it a cost center, a strategic asset, or something else, in your opinion?
I think it's an asset, and obviously I'm biased because I lead a data team. But when you think about cost and budget, and I'm not a financial person in the sense that I don't know the metrics and the EBITDA and all those cool stuff of finance. If I build a model for the salespeople to go after a good customer, they sign that customer off, they get a commission. But part of that commission, X%, whatever the percent, should trail back down to the data team. So I know in the past data teams were a cost center, yes, because no one understood what they're doing. And that's upon the leads and the heads of data to make that effort known, to be the voice and say, without this model, you would probably took longer. So that's still that positive approach. But I think moving forward, the model of budgets, and it needs to adapt those supportive and enablement teams, because there's not just data team, there's also a lot of other teams that work in the shadow, but they're still needed for the business to operate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes down to the same thing, that if you simplify business, right? I mean, you have to spend money to make money. You have to be innovative. You have to look at every single possible channel to improve your business. And I think this is one of the perhaps newer trends that we are seeing that a lot of businesses are looking at, because the science is there, right?
Yes.
The science is there. So I think it comes down to, I mean, everybody who's in business or wants to get in business will know this. You cannot ever rest on your laurels. You always have to be trying to move forward. And I think this kind of investment is a perfect opportunity of that for sure. So this is where I nerd out when I start thinking, how can we do things in business? How can we be better? I don't like sitting still, so I think it's brilliant for business, and I would recommend everybody at least take a look at it, because I think that's how. Look at Liverpool and their success. I'm sorry, I can get off the subject. Okay, if you had to name 3 misconceptions about BI and data science, what do you think they would be, that are currently out there? What would they be?
So that data science is an engineering role. It is not. That analytics are dashboarding tools, dashboarding, so that I don't name tools, or some spreadsheets.
Yeah.
It is not. And I think the final one is that with the rise of AI, that everyone is an analytic or a data scientist now. It's I think the misconception is not because you can't use these tools to develop models. It's because you need to understand what is going on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is what it is. That's why I emphasize on the data science, and I jump at every opportunity to discuss around data and science. But it could be the name of the role is wrong. It could be that we need a more defined role, or we need data scientists. We need to shout louder what we do.
Yeah, and probably that last one. I
Yes.
think, yeah. I would imagine that a lot of people in that sort of industry are a bit reserved, right? Scientists usually are a little bit, right?
Yes.
They live in their own space. They're focused on what they're doing, and perhaps that's an area that a bit of extra marketing could be
Absolutely.
Could be used. I got to ask you a personal question now. You look at a lot of data every day. Does it ever tire you out? Because I look at probably half the data that you do, and it exhausts me. So, give me a bit of your insight into how it works for you personally.
So it doesn't, because for me it's like locking myself into a room and I have all these puzzles to finish. It may look like I have 4 different puzzles, but then at the end they all come together. And the ultimate prize is when I engage with the stakeholder, which it is a very important relationship to have, and the stakeholder says, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That part makes all the confusion of how to connect the data worth it. Plus, for me, it's also interesting to derive that story from the data. It's like, okay, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And then I use statistical methods to translate those ones and zeros into something meaningful.
So going back to what you were saying about solving the puzzles, this is the carrot for you, right?
Yes.
I imagine you like the movie Da Vinci Code.
Oh yes, yes. Anything that is, I do puzzles myself.
You never thought of becoming a cryptologist, for example?
Well, yes, but in Malta, some career routes, career paths were not always clear.
Sure.
So even data science, I didn't even know that I could convert like that. But for me, give me data, let me analyze it, let me run models, let me try and solve the problem, or at least tell you why we can't solve the problem, because it's a different question that we should be asking.
Of course.
And I'm in my element.
Very nice. I'm going to go back to a personal question again. Are you only structured at work, or are you structured in everything?
Everything.
Everything, yeah?
Everything. It's I don't know how to explain this. For me,
it gives you comfort.
Yes, it's because I'm logical. So if I see parts in my house that are not in order, everything else in my entire house could be, like perfect. My mind goes to that it needs to be sorted out. It needs to be solved. It needs to be. I'm organized because I I like reading a lot, as one can imagine. So I want to have that time, and I can't have time if I'm always trying to solve different and small problems, not data problems. So I am organized to allow myself the time to do what I love.
Okay. Here's a follow-up question now. Does that drive the people around you crazy?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I'm called like a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but your mind works in different way. But you know what? At the end of the day, they say, oh, you did right, you did well in doing this. Because then you need a paper, 2 minutes, I can tell you where it is, which folder, probably which paper as well. So it makes it easy when they need something as well.
Absolutely. I think myself being a slight, because I've seen severe cases of OCD, but being a slight sufferer of OCD, it's the same thing for me. If things are not structured, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yes.
However, living with a wife and 2 children for the last 20 years has made me come to terms with the fact that things cannot always be. But in my own mind, at least, and in my own space, then I keep things nice and structured. Okay, very, very cool. I'd like to touch upon now and move the conversation in the direction of youngsters, people still trying to find their path in the world. I predict that this part of corporate business is only going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger over time. For somebody who's in the very early stages of making a decision, why would they choose a career in BI and data science?
AI works with data. If there's no data, there is no AI. So just the way that just the fast pace that we're seeing AI embedded into these businesses, there is a need for the business to understand the data that is going into these models. Bad data, wrong AI outputs, which the market calls them hallucinations. They're not hallucinations. They are calculated wrong outputs, but the AI produces them in a very confident manner that you kind of think it must be right. Without that data cleaning, that even understanding the data science model so that you can prompt the AI to you have this data, I want you to do this model with these parameters. You guide that prompt in a specific way, almost like micromanaging the AI. And then the AI would run the processes, and then you get the results, and then you fact check it. So if anything, I think there has never been a much more need for data experts as we have today.
Okay, following up on that. What makes, and I want this from your own words and your own mouth, what makes business intelligence and data science cool?
I think it's because I think it's cool, but I think it's because a lot of individuals out there don't really understand what we do. So they perceive us as doing magic, especially with data science. So it is cool because whenever I say, for example, I have a doctorate in astrophysics, or I work in data science, the response is like, oh, you're doing something great. I think for me it is cool because it speaks to my person. When I log on work, for me it's not work. For me it's, okay, I have this puzzle to solve, and then I'm lost in that problem, and it's like losing myself into a book with different words and different characters. And I think that's what makes it cool, because you go in thinking, okay, this is the problem I'm going to solve, and maybe I get out with either more questions or a completely different answer than I expected. And it's the engagement with the stakeholders and the business when they, they say, oh, this is very interesting. That is what makes it cool. Turning those ones and zeros into stories for the business to then say, okay, now that I know this, and then they go off to what they do.
And I think the broad result possibilities as well must be
Yes.
pretty cool as well, right? So you're digging into something, you obviously see a lot of different possibilities through the data, and some of them will work out well, and that will have a great impact. And I think
Yes.
that's probably what also keeps you motivated, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, data works. When it doesn't, it means that we need to be more careful how we collect it, why we're collecting it. Maybe we misunderstood its meaning. But from my 8 years, I think now, or 9 years almost in data, I think it always says a story, even if it's not the one you think, and that is cool.
Very cool. Now going back to personal,
Okay.
personal question. I'm going to make, what do you call it? I'm going to make an assumption here, and you can correct me if
Okay.
I'm wrong, okay? O levels, A levels, all A's?
No.
No, really?
No.
Okay,
No.
I need to know more. What were the results? Come on, I need to know.
Well, I went well, but no, not all A's. And at uni, there were subjects that I struggled to pass,
Okay.
but it didn't stop me.
No. The science, I imagine you did well on. The mathematics,
Yes,
you did well.
yes,
Because
yes.
you're forced to do other subjects as well, right?
But
Yeah.
yes, exactly. But at uni, I was maths and physics, just maths and physics. But you have such a broad, you have so many topics. And also I was younger, which means that there were strengths and weaknesses in the way that I learn that I haven't learned about myself. I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
So for me, if I see a lot of text on a whiteboard, I'm lost. If I read a book, because then I'm imagining the characters, that's fine. But for me to understand, I need images. I need to draw. And it took a while to mature and understand how I learn. Once I got that, then learning became more intuitive, more natural. And I'm still traumatized by my doctorate viva, like 2 hours and 45 minutes of questions. So exams are not really, a walk in the park for me, but learning is fun. I still enjoy it.
Very cool. I want you to take this as a compliment, okay? But being around you makes me feel stupid.
Oh,
Take it as a huge compliment. I listen to some of this stuff and I'm like, how, why, when, where? But it's cool. It's very, very cool. And I think obviously it's a joke, right? Because I don't consider myself to be
it's
stupid.
not the
Yeah.
intention.
No, definitely not, for sure. But I think I can sit down and listen to people like yourself for hours and hours. And it's because the subject is interesting and it's interesting to me, but it's just hearing intelligent people who are passionate about what they do and then having them help me understand. For me, that's like brilliant. And I think I really can sit down with people like that all day long. So, but I'm intelligent in my own ways, just in case anyone was wondering. Maybe that's another podcast episode. So for people who are looking to get into the direction of becoming someone who works in BI and data science, what are the first steps? I mean, how could it all begin for them?
Well, I would recommend that they are comfortable around maths. Not the.
Oh, we just lost 3/4 of the audience. Oh, dear me.
Well, you need to at least understand when you're, and I'm not even talking about machine learning or AI here. If you're doing an average, the understanding that what you're doing is an average. Bringing everything together and getting more or less what everyone would do. So that concept. And I think they also, especially with the rise of AI, they need to be comfortable not just in maths, but also with communicating with people.
Yeah.
As you mentioned before, data people sometimes can be closed in themselves, in their own head, and I'm at fault at that sometimes. But when you communicate what's in your head to other people, that's when the real cool stuff begins.
Yeah.
You learn it from experience. So if you're a math person who are not comfortable presenting, that is a trait that you can learn, that, you know, confidence, and there are training. Because when you convert, when I speak with people, for example, and they ask me around AI or data science, and I see that they really want to understand, and sometimes it's hard for a data person to try and translate all those equations into non-equation answer. But we have to do that. We must do that, because otherwise, you know, if you go for, if even us, if we speak to someone who can understand us, we are more likely to open up, we are more likely to engage. So that needs to be part of their toolkit. I'm not gonna go into programming, to be honest. There are a lot of languages, but I do suspect that with the rise of AI, they might come more or less, I'm not going to say obsolete, but not a large contributing factor.
Don't offend all the programmers now, okay? They're quite a sensitive bunch.
Well, you know, I code, but when I see the capabilities of this, for example, I think that interviewing for certain roles need to change. So that's why don't give up. If you don't know Python or if you don't know R, it's something that you can learn. I mean, I've done my PhD on MATLAB, and I've learned Python on the job. So if I can do it, anyone can.
Makes sense. And I just want to, for the record, say that I just scraped by my A levels. However, 2 A's in maths. All right, so when inevitably Flow kicks me out, I might come to you for a junior role, okay, in BI and data science. Right? Will you accept me, even though I'm old?
Well, we need to go through the proper process.
That's no, for sure. Oh, brilliant. We're getting closer to the end now, but I wanted to turn it back now to business, okay? If a business has never stepped into this world, but would like to, what are the first steps?
I think if we sit down, the business will realize that they already have stepped into this world. They might not call it BI, they might not call it data science, but they're probably using certain tools that they're looking at. They're looking at numbers in some parts of the business. But if they want to build a data team, I would start with getting the data sorted out, like with someone who can take care of the structure of the data and someone who can analyze the now, so that the business would align where we think we are versus where we actually are with the data. And if they're starting out, they have that chance of doing that progressively. Once they get confident in certain departments, that's where the data scientists come in. Because you cannot be a data scientist without being a data analyst first.
Of course.
You need to analyze the data first, and that's the recommendation I would give.
And for, let's say, smaller business owners or medium-sized business owners, is the first step to understand a bit more themselves about the topic, and then they can start building it into their business? Because I don't think you can go into this kind of thing as a small business owner without really understanding what it is, unless of course you outsource.
Yeah, I would say, you know, get a consultant, you know, consult, understand, but also you don't need to understand all aspects of it. More of a, if you start with why are you asking this question? Why are you considering a BI and data science team? What is the output? What are the expectations of this? Then it kind of starts to shape itself up. If you have and I highly doubt that businesses nowadays do not have use cases for data teams.
Of course, yeah.
So once you have that, then of course you need the data to be at least somewhere. It lives somewhere, whether it's in different drives or in different laptops. You need to hire someone to make sure that we know where the data is, and this takes time, and that's fine. And one doesn't need to wait for everything to be perfect. Everything can move in parallel. Okay.
If you had to give a rating of the importance of BI and DS to business in today's world, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most, how would you rate it?
Well, I'm going to be biased in my answer.
Don't be biased. You cannot be biased.
Well, I think that in today's data-driven.
You can base your decision on knowledge, not bias. Okay.
Well, then it's definitely in the top 9, 10.
9, 10. And why?
It could be 9 because as you go started, as I said, the experience. There are a lot of experts based on experience. And without them knowing they are using data, because what is data science? It's models trying to figure out how us humans understand ourselves. So that's why I say 9 to 10. 10 because if there's not that experience, or even if there is, the market changes, the market shifts. And we need to be proactive. If in today's fast-paced world, if we remain reactive, that's when you lose your footing in the market. So you need to predict what's happening. That's where data science come in.
I think that makes the most. It's so important, the difference between proactive and reactive, right?
Yes.
Especially in business. Reactive is a recipe for danger, always. But proactive, usually you can set a very solid path, and that's when obviously the strategies come in and the use of data and so on and so forth. So, okay, I think we're just about coming to the end now. I wanted to thank you. It's such an enjoyable conversation.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. There are certain things in life that I also nerd out in, and it is, as I do have a sort of mathematical mind, these sort of things have always intrigued me greatly, which is why I watched the movie Moneyball. And then when Liverpool started, I started looking into it more deeply. And so I nerded out in that way. But I do find the topic really interesting. And I think as time goes on, as corporate culture develops further, I think it's going to become more and more critical. And I think you'd probably agree with that, right?
Yes, and I hope so too.
Very, very good. That's it. Thank you so much. I will be seeing a lot more of Deandra, and we won't discuss that here, but I'm very happy that I will have that opportunity. So thank you so much. Good luck with everything, okay, that you have coming up. And possibly we'll get you back for a follow-up sometime in the mid-future. Would that be fine?
Yes, of course.
So I haven't offended you, or you haven't been bored in the last 40, 45 minutes?
No, I like talking about data. And in fact, if no one stops me, I might never do.
Do you talk about it in your sleep? You're not sure, I guess, right? Has anyone claimed that you talk about it in your sleep?
No one claimed that I do. But I do, I think, make that conversation socially. Everyone wants to have fun. And then there's me talking about data because something is laterally related to it.
Yeah, very good. The final message from me is this: if you haven't looked at anything to do with business intelligence and data science, I suggest you do so. You don't have to make any critical decisions, but start looking into it. Start making yourself knowledgeable, a bit more knowledgeable on the subject. And perhaps that will give you the opportunity to do some even greater things for your business. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again for another episode soon.